The abandoned plantation mansion in rural Virginia had many names over the years, but locals in 1856 whispered only one. Дом без невест. The house without brides. Everyone in the county knew it. The girl who lived there had been born wrong, they said. Not deformed, not sick, just wrong. Her name was Evelyn Harrow, daughter of plantation master William Harrow, a man more feared than respected. Evelyn never smiled, never spoke above a whisper, and never looked anyone directly in the eye. Her pale face was always turned slightly to the side, as if listening to something that no one else could hear. And sometimes, late at night, servants claimed she wandered the corridor outside her room, whispering to someone who wasn't there. Her father declared her unmarriageable, not suitable for any family, not fit for society, not worthy of a dowry. So he made a choice so monstrous that even his cruelest adversaries were shocked. On the 40th night of the harvest season, under a moon that looked bruised and swollen, William Harrow walked to the slave quarters with 2 lanterns and a letter whip tied to his belt. His boots sank into the wet soil, the air thick with humidity and the smell of fermenting tobacco. He stopped in front of Carter, the strongest slave on the plantation. Carter was built like he carried the world on his shoulders, silent, scarred, and feared by everyone except Evelyn, who stared at him with the same strained, unreadable expression as she gave everyone. William Harrow lifted the lantern toward Carter's face. "She ain't fit for any white man," he spat. "She ain't fit for marriage at all. But you," he jabbed a finger into Carter's chest. "Y'all take her, y'all keep her. From this night on, she's yours." The yard fell silent. No one breathed. Even the crickets stopped. Carter's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Speaking was forbidden. Defiance meant death. And yet, his eyes flicked to Evelyn, standing half hidden behind her father's coat, her bare feet sinking into the mud. Something passed between them, something quiet, secret, and frighteningly calm. But the horror didn't begin that night. It began 3 days earlier, the day Evelyn found the black iron key buried beneath the floorboards of her room. The key that didn't belong to any door in the mansion. The key that was warm to the touch. The key that made her whisper to the walls at night. The diary hidden under her pillow contained only one repeated sentence. Он придет за мной через 13 дней. He will come for me in 13 days. The night her father gave her away to Carter was the 1. And in the attic above her room, behind a rotting trunk and a tangle of cobwebs, something ancient shifted for the first time in decades. Stretching, waking, recognizing the sound of the key. Evelyn didn't move. Carter lowered his head. William Harrow smiled, satisfied. But the mansion itself seemed to exhale, long and low, like an animal sensing blood in the air. Carter walked beside Evelyn in silence while the overseers followed behind, making sure he didn't change his mind. Evelyn didn't cry, didn't resist, didn't look afraid. As she held the black iron key so tightly that blood slipped between her fingers, and her eyes kept drifting toward the attic window, the boarded one everyone in the plantation avoided. Each time as she looked at it, the old birds cried softly, almost like they were responding to her. The slave quarters were silent when they arrived. Everyone watched from the shadows, horrified by Master Harrow's order. They all knew this wasn't marriage. It was cruelty, punishment, humiliation, but Evelyn didn't walk like a victim. As she moved with purpose, as if following instructions only as she called her. When the overseers locked Carter and Evelyn inside the cabin, as she simply stood in the center of the room, staring at him. Her pale skin reflected the lantern light, her sagged black hair sticking to her face like dark vines. Then as she spoke, "You shouldn't be afraid of him." Her voice didn't sound like a girl's voice, it sounded like someone repeating words whispered into her ears moments before. As she extended the black key toward Carter, he told him you would understand. Only you can open the door. Carter froze. Evelyn stepped closer, the one in the attic. The one they locked away in 1792. The one they used to silence. The lantern flickered violently. Carter's heartbeat pounded. He had heard the old stories about the slave murdered in the attic, the missing body, the curse placed on the Harrow family, the whispers that haunted the house. Evelyn pressed the key into his hand. Tonight is day 4. Before Carter could speak, a knock echoed through the cabin wall, not the door, not the floor, the wall. 3 slow, heavy, deliberate knocks. Then a deep, exhausted voice whispered from the wood. Она привела тебя, S.H. и brought you. Evelyn smiled for the first time in her life. Outside, the overseers screamed, short, sharp, and cut off too quickly. Carter grabbed Evelyn's wrist. What did you do? Evelyn tilted her head calmly. I didn't do anything, S.H. whispered. He did. The screamers outside didn't fight. They were cut off, swallowed, as if the night itself had closed its hand around their throats. Carter froze, gripping Evelyn's wrist, but S.H. didn't pull away. S.H. only turned her head toward the cabin door, listening to the silence that followed. A thick, unnatural silence. He's closer now, S.H. whispered. Carter released her and stepped toward the door, but the floorboards beneath his feet vibrated softly, like something large was moving beneath the house. He backed away. Evelyn, what is under her? S.H. blinked slowly, as if searching through memories that were not hers. He was buried there, not in a grave. In a room they sealed shut the night he cursed this family. Carter's blood went cold. He had heard that name whispered by elders, Isaac Renas, a slave who resisted, who fought, who killed an overseer before the Harrows dragged him into the attic. They said he cursed the land, the house, and every child born in it. They said the daughter born after his death would be marked. They said S.H. would hear him. They said S.H. would belong to him. Evelyn stepped closer to Carter, her breath shallow, her voice trembling not with fear, but with something like devotion. He chose you, because you're the only one strong enough to bring him back. Carter shook his head. I'm not helping any curse. I'm not opening any room. Evelyn smiled softly, a disturbing, uncanny smile that didn't belong on her face. You already started. Before Carter could question her, the cabin wall burst inward, not splintering outward from force, but folding inward, as if it melted. A tall shadow filled the opening, stretching impossibly thin and then reforming, like a man stepping out of smoke. But no man moved like that. No man had joints that bent that way. No man glowed faintly with the dim orange color of dying embers. Carter cowed and breathed. The ship stepped fully into the cabin, and the temperature dropped so suddenly that Carter's breath fogged. Evelyn bowed her head. You come. The voice that answered was the same voice that whispered through the wall, a low, ruined growl dragging through decades of rush. 13 days, it rasped. And then the house opens. Carter stumbled backward, but the shadow moved with unnatural speed, appearing in front of him before he could blink. It didn't touch him, just leaned close enough that Carter could feel heat radiating from its chest, heat that shouldn't exist in a cold room. You will open the door, it growled. You will bring him back. I won't, Carter whispered, trembling. Evelyn stepped behind him and placed the black iron key into his shaking hand. You don't understand, S.H. whispered gently. You don't get to choose. The shadow leaned back, and the cabin suddenly creaked, as if every beam and nail felt its presence. Midnight, the voice said. Day 5 begins at midnight. Then the shadow dissolved into the cracks of the floor, seeping through the wood like smoke sinking into a grave. Carter collapsed to his knees, shaking violently. Evelyn knelt beside him, brushing dirt from his face with a tenderness that didn't reach her eyes. You shall rest, S.H. whispered. Tomorrow he'll show you where the door is. And outside, beneath the soil of the plantation, something enormous shifted, like a heartbeat waking up. Carter didn't sleep. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the shadow's amber-colored chest bending toward him, felt the heat of something that shouldn't exist, heard that ruined voice promising midnight and day 5. Evelyn slept beside the lantern without fear, curled as calmly as a child beside a fireplace, though the air around her was cold enough to frost the cabin window. Wind on finally crept across the plantation. Carter rose to the sound of distant murmuring, slaves whispering, praying, begging for answers. The overseers who had escorted Carter last night were gone. No bodies, no blood, no footprints. As the night swallowed them all. When Carter stepped outside, every eye turned to him. No one asked questions. They didn't have to. They saw terror in his face, and they saw Evelyn standing silently behind him, holding the black iron key. A key warm enough to steam in the cold morning air. An elder slave, old Miriam, held toward Carter, her blind eyes milky white, her voice shaking. "It is waking," she cracked. "I dreamed of it, the one they locked away." Evelyn tilted her head, watching Miriam with a stillness. "He says you knew him," Evelyn whispered. Miriam stiffened. "I knew Isaac Renes before the Harrows tore him apart," he hissed. "And I knew the date come when he'd claw his way back." She pointed one trembling finger at Evelyn. "The child ain't hers. Ain't his. Ain't even fully human. She's the house's answer." Carter grabbed Miriam's shoulder. "How do I stop it?" Miriam lied, a broken, hopeless slow. "You don't. It chose you, boy. You hold the key now. You opened the way when you touched it." Evelyn stepped down from the cabin porch, barefoot on the cold dirt, her voice drifting like smoke. "He says the house remembers you, Miriam. It remembers what you saw that night. It remembers you hid the map." Miriam's blood caught. "I burned it." Evelyn smiled faintly. "He saw you." Before Miriam called rapidly, the ground beneath them trembled, soft at first, then stronger, like something huge was turning beneath the earth. Slaves screamed and scattered, running for the fields. Carter grabbed Evelyn, pulling her toward the cabin. "What is happening?" Evelyn's eyes rolled back briefly, her voice shifting into a second voice layered beneath her own, deep, ancient. "Day 5, she whispered. The house is waking." The trembling grew stronger, sending creaks across the yard. Birds fled into the sky. Dogs howled in fear, and then, from the direction of the mansion, a long, hollow groan echoed, a sound of wood bending, stretching, bones settling after centuries. The front door of the mansion slowly swung open on its own. Evelyn stared at it, unblinking. "He wants you to come inside." Carter shook his head violently. "I'm not going in there." "You will," Evelyn whispered. "Because tonight, the door under. The house will open, and if you are not there, he will come for all of them instead." Carter looked toward the slaves, terrified, praying, children clinging to their mothers. His stomach twisted. Evelyn reached for his hand, placing the warm iron key into his palm again. "You were chosen," she whispered. "You aren't a victim." Her voice dropped lower, colder. "You're the sacrifice." And from deep inside the mansion, something answered her with a low, hungry exhale. The sound of something waking up, starved for more than a century. Carter stood frozen at the edge of the yard, staring at the mansion's open doorway as if it were a mouth waiting to swallow him all. The air around the house shimmered with heat, though the morning was cold enough to numb fingers. Evelyn walked ahead of him without hesitation, her bare feet leaving no prints in the soft dirt. "He's waiting," she murmured. "The house wants you inside before sundown." Carter followed her despite every instinct screaming to run. Each step brought him closer to the mansion he had avoided his entire life. As a boy, he had heard the stories, voices in the walls, lights in empty rooms, footsteps overhead when no one lived upstairs. But the closer he walked, the more those stories felt like warnings he had ignored. The front door remained wide open, slowly shifting as if breathing. Carter stepped through it, and the air changed instantly, heavy, humid, thick with the scent of old wood, sweat, and something metallic. The hallway stretched before them, lined with portraits of the Harrow family. But the faces had changed. Eyes once painted normal now seemed to shift, following Carter with an intensity that burned. Evelyn touched one from gently. "They hear him now," she whispered. "They know he's coming back." Carter felt chills crawl up his spine. "Show him the door," he said. Evelyn nodded and led him toward the winding staircase that spiraled to the second floor. Every stick creaked, not from weight, but from something beneath the boards pushing upward, testing the wood. The second floor hallway was darker, colder. Evelyn moved toward a narrow side door at the end of the hall. The map Miriam hid, it was Ali, Evelyn said softly. The house itself is the map. As each opened the narrow door, behind it was a staircase leading down, for deeper than it should go. Carter stared into the blacknesses, feeling cold blood rise from below like a draft from a crypt. This isn't the basement, he whispered. Evelyn shook her head. No, this was built before the mansion, before the slave quarters, before everything. Isaac found it. They killed him because he knew. Carter gripped the warm key in his hand, feeling it pulse like a heartbeat. What is down, sir? Evelyn exhaled slowly, her voice trembling for the first time. What they feared, what they sealed, what every harrow child was born to silence. As each stepped onto the stairs. And now, what you must release. Carter hesitated at the top, his breath shaking. But the house made the choice for him. The door behind him slammed shut, plunging the hallway into darknesses. Carter's only option was to go down. Each step felt steeper, colder, deeper. The air thickened until breathing felt like drowning. At the bottom, Evelyn stood before a massive stone door, carved with symbols Carter had never seen, symbols that twisted like living things I have stared at all along. This is it, Evelyn whispered. The room where they sealed Isaac. The room where he waits. Carter stepped closer. The stone pushed faintly, as if something behind it was breathing. Evelyn took his hand and lifted the iron key. He's been dreaming of this moment for 64 years. Carter swallowed hard. I don't want to open it. Evelyn's voice dropped, cold, layered with that ancient echo again. Then who will open it for you? The stone door shuddered violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. Something struck the door from the inside, once, twice, 3 times. Each blow louder, sharper, hungrier. Carter's heart pounded as the key in his hand grew hotter and hotter, glowing now like molten metal. Evelyn stepped back. Day 6 begins now. With a roar that shook the earth, the stone door cracked down the center. And something ancient began forcing its way through. The stone door split wider, shards of ancient rock grinding across the floor as something massive pushed from the other side. Carter staggered back, the heat from the glowing key burning into his palm, but he couldn't drop it, his fingers refused to let go. Evelyn stood still, eyes unfocused, as if her mind were somewhere far beneath the earth. A long, low growl echoed through the crack, vibrating through Carter's ribs. Then a hand, if it could be called a hand, forced its way through. Long, skeletal fingers, wrapped in scorched flesh, dragging deep claw marks across the stone. The air filled with the stench of burned earth and old blood. The fingers twitched, searching, reaching. Carter stumbled back, but Evelyn whispered, "He knows you're here. Don't run, he'll only chase you." The stone door convulsed as another blow slammed into it from within, widening the crack until a face emerged, charred, twisted, half bone, half ember, with hollow sockets burning orange deep inside. Isaac Renes was no longer a man. He was something built from rush and confinement, from 64 years of being buried alive in the dark. His ruined voice scraped through the air like metal dragged across a stone. "You brought the key." Carter shouted, "I didn't bring anything. I don't want this." Isaac lied, a dry, cracking sound that shook dust from the ceiling. "The house chose you long before you were born." Evelyn stepped beside Isaac's emerging form, placing her hand against the stone as if greeting an old friend. "He's ready," S.H. whispered. Isaac's face turned toward Carter, ember sockets narrowing. "Open the rest of the door." Carter shook his head violently. "No, I won't release you." Isaac's arm snapped through the crack, faster than any human movement, seizing Carter's wrist with a hit sentence it blistered flesh instantly. Carter screamed, dropping to one knee as Isaac pulled him closer to the door. "You will open it." Evelyn knelt beside Carter, touching his bear and raised gently. You can't stop it, sh и murmured. You were marked the moment you touched the key. Carter felt something invasive, seeping from the key into his veins, burning up his arm, crawling through his chest. Isaac's voice boomed, echoing through the chamber, let him in. Evelyn leaned close to Carter's ear. Just breathe, the house has waited for this. Carter's body convulsed as the key melted into his hand, fusing with his skin. The symbols on the stone door blazed with blinding light, reacting to his pulse, his blood, his unwilling offering. Isaac dragged himself harder against the crack, stone splitting, dust raining. Open, he roared, and with a sudden violent burst, the stone door obeyed. It split in half, collapsing outward. Isaac ran stepped through fully for the first time in 6 decades, towering, burning, skeletal, radiating a hunger that felt older than the mansion itself. Carter lay on the ground, barely conscious, shaking uncontrollably. Isaac towered over him. Day 7, Isaac growled. We begin. Evelyn stepped behind Isaac, her face glowing in the amber light. What happens now? She whispered. Isaac slowly turned his head toward her, flames curling beneath his ribs. Now, he said, we take the house. And with a single step, he began climbing. The stairs toward the mansion above, each footfall shaking the earth like thunder. Isaac climbed the stairs with a weight that made the entire mansion groan above them. Dust drifted from the ceiling in trembling waves, and every board of the house creaked like bones under pressure. Carter tried to stand, but pain tore through his arm where the molten key had fused into his flesh. His skin was scorched, twisted, marked with glowing lines that pulsed like veins filled with fire. Evelyn knelt beside him, her fingers brushing the burnt skin with airy tenderness. Don't fight it, sh whispered. The key is part of you now. You're his anchor. Carter recoiled. Anchor for what? Evelyn's eyes darkened. To keep him here. Above them, Isaac's footsteps reached the second floor, each touch sending vibrations through the narrow stairway. Carter forced himself upright, gripping the wall for balance. Every movement burned, but the pain was changing. It was no longer like fire on flesh, but like something alive inside him tightening its grip. Evelyn watched him with a strange mix of pity and devotion. You can't stop him, sh murmured. But you can choose how it ends. Carter clenched his teeth. I'm choosing to end this now. He pushed past her, stumbling up the stairs toward the mansion. Evelyn followed silently, as if sh had always known he would try. When Carter emerged into the hallway, the house was different. The walls rippled like flesh beneath wallpaper. Portraits bailed dark stains from tear frames. And the air, it was thick, hot, breathing. Isaac stood at the far end of the corridor, his massive, half-charred form filling the space with a heat sentence the paint blistered on the walls. He reached toward one of the portraits, an old Harrow ancestor, and the canvas ignited in an instant, burning to ash. They hit him, Isaac snarled. They starved him. They built this house on my bones. He turned toward Carter, the amber light in his hollow socket flaring. Now we under the threat. Carter stepped closer, every instinct begging him to run. This won't bring them back, he said through trembling breaths. Isaac slowly rattled the chandelier overhead. This isn't about them, this is about power. He gestured toward Evelyn. My blood in her veins. My curse in her birth. Sh is the door. Carter stared at Evelyn in shock. You're part of him. Evelyn didn't deny it. I was born hearing his voice, sh whispered. I was born for this. Isaac extended a massive hand toward Carter. And you, as the key. He radiated from Isaac's fiercely the floorboards smoked beneath him. Carter shook his head violently. I won't help you. Isaac's voice deepened, layered with something ancient and furious. You already have. Suddenly, the mansion shuddered violently, walls buckling outward as something enormous began to unfurl beneath the house. The entire floor trembled like something alive waking from a deep, monstrous sleep. Evelyn grabbed Carter's arm. He's merging with the house, sh whispered. Only the house accepts him, he'll never be sealed again. Carter felt panic claw up his throat. Then tell him how to stop it. Evelyn hesitated, truly hesitated, for the first time. Her voice was soft, fragile. If you break the bond, you break him. Carter frowned. What bond? The one between us, he whispered. Her eyes were set, ancient, resigned. He loves through my blood, through what I made Isaac's rotor through the mansion, shaking dust and debris loose from the rafters. Bring him, Isaac commanded her. It is time. Evelyn looked at Carter. He said quietly, so does he. Carter froze. Isaac's footsteps thundered closer, the heat becoming unbearable. Evelyn took Carter's burned hand, pressing it to her chest. You asked how to stop him, he whispered. This is the only way. And below them, the house gave a deep, hollow moan, like a beast begging to be fed. Lay awake long after the house went silent, listening to the heavy breaths of the sleeping slaves outside her door, breaths that seemed to synchronized, to deliberate, as if they were all pretending to sleep while waiting for something to happen. The air felt thick, heavier than the Virginia humidity, as to the mansion itself had begun breathing with them, exhaling slow drafts that rustled the dead flowers he had hidden beneath her bed. Tried to calm her racing mind, but whenever shut her eyes saw the same image, the strongest slave, Ellie, standing in the dark corner of her room, his eyes glowing faintly like embers that refused to die. Knew he wasn't actually her, but the house had a way of playing tricks on her, whispering half-formed shadows against the walls, stretching silhouettes beyond their real proportions. Rallied onto her side, pulling the thin blanket over her head, but still heard that faint scraping noise, like fingers dragging along the floorboards just outside her door. Held her breath and listened. Scrap, pause, scrap, pause, the sound moved slowly, deliberately, as though whoever, or whatever, was crawling past her room was trying to avoid alerting the others. Clenched her fists, waiting for the sound to pass, but instead the scraping stopped directly at her door. Her heart slammed against her chest so hard felt her ribs ache. Whispered Ellie's name, not loudly, but in a desperate plea for the only person who frightened her and protected her at the same time. The door didn't open. Instead, a low whisper slipped through the narrow gap beneath it, a voice so hoarse and broken it barely resembled something human. He's coming for you. Shoved her hand against her mouth to smothered her scream. Footsteps, heavy, slow, dragging, thudded across the hallway next. These were different from the scrappers. This still carried weight, authority, anger. Then heard her father's voice, but it was wrong, too deep, too distant, as if he were speaking through water. Open the door. Didn't move. Not even to breathe. The doorknob twitched, rattled, then slowly turned, but the latch held because he had locked it. Heard him inhale on the other side, a long, slow breath that made her stomach twist because it didn't sound like a man breathing, it sounded like something that had burrowed among his lungs. My daughter, the warped voice crooned. Let him see what you've become. The knob jerked violently. Scrambled backward on the bed just as a loud crack split through the doorframe. Braced for the door to burst open, for her father or something wearing her father's shop to come tearing into her room. But instead everything went still. Silent. Not even the cicadas outside made a sound. Then, after a long minute, heard a whisper right behind her inside the room. I told you, a voice said, breath cold against her ear. He's already here. Spun around, but there was no one. Not her father, not Ellie, not even a shadow to justify the voice. Only the dead flowers under her bed shimmering faintly, their brittle petals trembling as though touched by an invisible hand. Didn't sleep for the rest of the night, not after hearing a voice inside her room when no one was there, not after watching the dead flowers tremble as if something were looping its invisible fingers through the stems, and by dawn her nerves were stretched thin enough to snap. Stepped into the hallway only to find every door along the corridor standing wide open, even the rooms that had been locked for decades, the owners of father claimed were unfit for civilized eyes, and the air pouring from them was colder than the early Virginia morning, carrying a smell he had no name for, something like damp soil mixed with rot and old metal. Hugged herself and walked faster, but the corridor felt longer than usual, unnaturally extended, the floorboards creaking beneath her feet in a pattern that didn't match her steps, as though someone were walking just out of sync behind her. When finally reached the back staircase, saw him, Ellie, the strongest slave, standing at the bottom as if he had been waiting for her all night. His shoulders rose and fell with deep, slow breaths, but his eyes were wrong. They were too wide, too alert, as if he had seen something that stripped the last layer of humanity from him during the night. He lifted his hand, not to touch her, but to warm her back, a silent gesture of danger, and when stepped back, the staircase behind her groaned violently. "Don't turn around," Ellie rasped, his voice cracking like wood under pressure, but of course her fear betrayed her and did. What saw wasn't a person. It wasn't even a shadow. It was a shape, tall enough to scrap the ceiling, certain that it looked carved from darkness as itself, and its head was tilted in an unnatural angle, as though it were studying her with fascination rather than hunger. She gasped and stumbled forward, nearly falling down the stairs, and Ellie grabbed her arm with a strength that bordered on panic. "It followed your father home," he whispered, eyes locked on the figure behind her. "And now it is choosing who to take next." Before she could ask him what he meant, a sound, deep, dragging, inhuman, echoed through the hallway, as if the creature's limbs were scraping against the walls as it moved. Ellie pushed her down the stairs, forcing her to descend faster, and as they reached the bottom the entire house shuddered, a tremor rolling through the floor like something enormous had shifted its weight. She clutched Ellie's arm, but he didn't look at her. He was staring toward the upper landing with terror so he had never seen anything like it in him. "It marked you," he breathed. "And once it marks you, it never stops." She wanted to scream, to run, to beg, but her voice died in her throat as the tall shadow leaned forward, its elongated arm stretching unnaturally across the railing, reaching for her with the same gentleness as a hand brushing a child's cheek, and as its finger brushed the wood beside her face the banister turned black, rotting instantly, collapsing into dust at her feet. She didn't know whether the house was collapsing around her or merely changing shape to corner her, but every step it took made the floor swirl and sink like something alive, and the tall shadow above them moved with a slow, deliberate grace that made her feel like she was being hunted not by a creature but by a decision, an inevitable choice made long before she was born. Ellie dragged her through the narrow service hallway, his grip trembling now, and he realized for the first time that the strongest slave in Virginia was terrified beyond reason. Whatever strength he had was nothing compared to the thing following them. The walls pushed us to breathing, the old portraits on the peeling wallpaper warping their faces into contorted screams, and the deeper they ran into the mansion the more he felt the air thicken, as if he were moving through water instead of air. They reached the storage cellar door, but when Ellie pulled it open, a blast of sea wind roared upward, carrying with it the sound of distant whispers. Hundreds of voices, layered, pleading, begging for release like soulless trapped beneath frozen earth. "It is using them," Ellie said, voice choking. "Everyone who did on this land, everyone your father broke, they weren't gone. They were being healed." Before she could process the horror of that, something slammed against the floor above them, one heavy impact that reverberated through the house so violently dust piled from the ceiling in sickly grey clouds. The tall shadow was descending the staircase now, each footstep bending the wood as if it were kneeling under its weight, and when it reached the bottom it paused, tilting its head in that same awful way, listening not to them but to the house itself, as to the mansion were whispering their location. Ellie shoved her into the cellar and slammed the door just as long, skeletal fingers scraped across the wood, leaving grooves so deep they nearly broke through. They backed down the stone steps, but the whispering grew louder, circling them instead of echoing, as if the voices were rising from the dirt under their feet. At the bottom of the cellar sat a stone wall, sealed for decades, covered in chains that pulsed faintly like veins under skin. SH staggered back. What is that? Alice fast broken away. SH had never seen pure despair. Your father didn't drive you away because you were unmarriageable, he whispered. He gave you away because you were the last key. The final offering. The one thing this thing has been waiting for. The oil rattled violently, the chains snapping one by one like brittle bones, and a cold red light seeped through the cracks in the stone. The tall shadow at the top of the stairs stopped scraping the door, because now it didn't need to. The cellar had chosen. The earth beneath her feet began to split, opening like a hungry mouth, and a silly tree to pull her back. The ground swallowed him up to his knees, dragging him into the red glow. SH screamed his name, grabbing his arms, but summiting in the oil pulled harder, with strength no human could fight. As SH lost her grip on him, as the cold hands of the ancient wrapped around her ankles, SH realized that too late the house had never belonged to her father. It had belonged to the thing beneath it. And it had been waiting 20 years for her to come home.